What is going on, you guys? This is DerekJ Speaks, and we are here to talk about WWE Monday Night Raw on June 9th, 2025, live in Phoenix, Arizona. A show that has been built up for about a month now around a huge World Heavyweight Championship main event between Gunther and the World Champion Jey Uso. A lot of question as to whether Jey would make it into this show as world champion, which he did. And then after Money in the Bank, after Seth Rollins winning this past weekend, the discussion regarding this match revolved around what is the finish going to be? Are we going to get interference? Are we going to get a cash-in attempt, a successful one, a failed one? Will Bill Goldberg make an appearance during this match to set something up with Gunther, as has been rumored and speculated by people for months now about Goldberg's final match? All of these ideas, would Jey beat Gunther clean? All of these crazy ideas going around for weeks and weeks heading into this match, and what we got was a top to bottom, very good main event match between Jey and Gunther, probably the best match the two of them had, probably the best crowd heat out of all of the matches they've ever had, and more importantly, it ended with a clean victory for Gunther. Gunther locked in the sleeper hold on Jey Uso, and Jey tried to fight out of it the best he could. Hell, he even was able to lock in one of his own for a brief period of time, akin to how he won the championship at WrestleMania. But Gunther was able to get one right back on him, and you looked at Jey, he's fighting, and then eventually he just couldn't fight anymore. The eyes closed, and he was out. And Gunther walks out of Monday Night Raw in Phoenix with the World Heavyweight Championship. And they went off the air. They got a shot of Jey on the outside laid out with his son, who he came out with him during his entrance. His son was there at ringside comforting his father, and Gunther is celebrating in the ring, holding up the championship. The pyro goes off in the background, and the show goes off. So no cash in, no teases of anything else, just what it is. And what it is Gunther is once again the World Heavyweight Champion. And I gotta tell you, of all the possibilities and ideas and predictions as to how this match was gonna go, what the finish was gonna be, who's walking out World Heavyweight Champion, would it even be any of these two men to do it, all of the possibilities for finishes to this match, the one outcome that I thought was the least likely was the one that we got, which is Gunther beating Jey Uso clean to win back the championship. I just didn't think that there was going to be a plan to put the belt back on Gunther anytime soon. After he lost it to Jey at WrestleMania, I felt like their story had ended. And then they had Gunther come back later and challenge Jey to a rematch, and I thought that was weird because I didn't really think there was a need for another match between the two of them, nor did I really want to see another match between the two of them. But they set it up, and they set it up well enough in advance, and we got it here. Now, to their credit, they did have the commentators, Michael Cole and Wade Barrett. Pat McAfee was off tonight, so it was just Cole and Barrett, and they spent the entire match talking about how Jey is all banged up, how he's been running rough for the last couple of weeks, helping out other people, getting attacked, getting laid out by Bronson Reed with the Tsunami Splash the previous week. He competed at Money in the Bank in a grueling tag team match. He's been through the ringer, and he's all banged up. He has internal injuries, the midsection, which Gunther was working over throughout the entire match. So they were really putting a lot of emphasis on the fact that Jey was going into this match very injured. So as clean of a victory as it wasn't entirely clean, because they gave Jey that out, that he has been a very fighting champion and he's been all over the place for the last month or so. So that was the reason that he gave it all he could in this match, but it just was not enough to beat Gunther again. So there you go. As far as Jey Uso's concerned, I mean, he could end up winning the championship back again in the future. I just don't think it's coming anytime soon. As for Gunther, the possibilities are endless as to who can eventually face him for that championship. In the short term, it's possible they could set up that Goldberg match. A lot of people have just been convinced, because Goldberg has gone on record as to saying that WWE is going to give him a retirement match at some point this year, and he's been training for it. He's been getting injured for it in his preparation, but he's had a couple of interviews here and there, and he's talked about the injuries, but he's also talked about how if he's going to have his retirement match, he wants it to be in the summer, he wants it to be in the South. So if you take that at face value, and again, this is only him, this is fan speculation, this is podcaster speculation and all of that stuff, because WWE has done absolutely nothing to tease the possibility of Goldberg coming anywhere near this television show. The last time we saw Goldberg on TV was last October at Bad Blood. So we haven't seen him since. We do, now that show was in Atlanta, and we do have a big show coming up in Atlanta just next month. There's going to be a Saturday night's main event show on the night of July 12th, and it's going to be in Atlanta. So if they want to do Gunther and Goldberg, if they want to give Goldberg his retirement match, and they want to do it in the South, Atlanta's right there for Saturday night's main event. If Gunther is the person they want to go with, which it doesn't have to be, it's the whole idea, because at that Bad Blood show, there was a segment on the show between Gunther and Goldberg. So if they want to carry from that and they want Gunther to be his final opponent, then Gunther and Goldberg at Saturday night's main event could be the move. But I am not entirely convinced that Gunther is going to be the opponent for Goldberg. But we'll see. We'll see what happens as far as that's concerned. But long term with Gunther and him now being the world champion again, which I have no issues with. I'm a fan of Gunther. I thought it would be interesting to see him and his character on TV without a championship for a little bit. I thought that would be a very interesting position for him to be in, but didn't last that long. So he is once again a champion in WWE. And with that finish and with some of the other things that took place on this show, it has my mind thinking, what is going to be the big match for Gunther later this summer, specifically at SummerSlam? Take the Goldberg stuff out of the way. If that happens, it's a non sequitur. It's something to kill 5 minutes of TV time on NBC, and it will be over and done with. For Gunther specifically, something more important, more valuable can be SummerSlam, and that can be impacted by King of the Ring. The King and Queen of the Ring tournaments started on this show. They are being contested with a bunch of fatal four-way matches that will lead to singles matches, that will lead to finals at the Night of Champions pay-per-view on June 28th. And we had two four-way matches on this show, one for the men and one for the women. And with the men, we had Sami Zayn, Dominic Mysterio, Braun Breaker, and Penta, who were having a great match, a very fun, chaotic match. The crowd super into it, super invested in it, and the finish saw Braun Breaker, who was just a powerhouse throughout the entire match. He charges around the ring on the floor. He goes over and spears Penta clean in half on the ground, and then out of nowhere comes LA Knight, who lays out Braun Breaker with a BFT on the floor, and he escapes through the crowd. Meanwhile, back in the ring, Sami Zayn hits a haluva kick on Dominic Mysterio to get the 1-2-3, and Sami Zayn is the one to advance in the men's King of the Ring tournament here. First off, for LA Knight, I still am not okay with the fact that he lost at Money in the Bank. This does not change that, but I'm glad to see that he has some kind of direction. This man got laid out by Seth Rollins and his crew on the SmackDown before Money in the Bank, and he basically got screwed over by these guys at Money in the Bank as well. And he was screwed out of his third opportunity at winning that briefcase, and it was stolen from him by Seth and his crew. So he's here getting revenge. It's something different for him to do, and feuding with Rollins and these guys could be a way to transition LA Knight off of SmackDown and over to Monday Night Raw, which he desperately needs to do because there is no good future for him if he stays on SmackDown. So I'll say that and we'll put that aside. As for Sammy, this is a big win here, and he could go on to the next round and lose, but I'm looking at the entire rest of the tournament here involving the men specifically, and they did lay out the brackets and some of the matches coming up this week on SmackDown, next week on Raw. So as far as the men are concerned, we have on the same side of the bracket as Sammy, there's an upcoming four-way with the SmackDown crew with Randy Orton, LA Knight, Aleister Black, and Carmelo Hayes. And after what happened on this show, safe to say LA Knight very likely not going to win this match. In fact, I could see LA Knight losing here, and it could set up an LA Knight Seth Rollins match for Night of Champions. That's a possibility. But among the guys in this match, obviously Randy Orton, who we have not seen since Backlash, it's probably the likeliest that he'll win. Would love for Carmelo Hayes to win, considering the fact that he lost his Money in the Bank qualifying match. It'd be nice to see him win here, but I'm not going to put much stock into that. I'm going to go with Randy Orton here. We have another one with SmackDown people on the other side of the bracket. We got Cody Rhodes, Damian Priest, Andrade, and Shinsuke Nakamura. I think you just look at the names there, it's pretty obvious that's going to be a win for Cody Rhodes. And then from Raw, again, we have Sheamus, Rusev, Bronson Reed, and a mystery opponent. That match is going to take place next week on Raw, and they will announce who that person will be. I don't know who it's going to be, but I'm just going to go based on who we already know, and I'm going to say Bronson Reed is going to end up winning this match, which would mean the next round of the finals would be Sami Zayn versus Randy Orton on one side and Cody Rhodes versus Bronson Reed on the other. I'm going with Reed since Breaker lost his. I think another member of Rollins' crew probably should make it a little farther into the tournament, so I'm going to go with Bronson Reed. In that next round, I see Sami Zayn beating Randy Orton, and even if it's not Randy, I see Sami Zayn winning. And then Cody and Bronson Reed, going to go with Cody for a Sami Zayn versus Cody Rhodes final in the King of the Ring tournament at Saudi Arabia. And it would be very unpredictable. It could go either way because Cody Rhodes, especially in light of who John Cena is facing at the Night of Champions pay-per-view, we'll talk about that in a little bit, all signs point to Cena Cody 2 at SummerSlam. So that match is going to happen. My thing is, Cody does not need to win this tournament in order for that match to happen because he already pinned John Cena at Money in the Bank. So that should already be enough to get him that championship match with Cena at SummerSlam if that's the direction they want to go in. So the way I see it, Sammy, Cody, give Sami Zayn the win. Sammy wins in Saudi Arabia, gets the big win. Sami Zayn is king of the ring, and he goes on to SummerSlam to face Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. Both men tied up 1-1. Sammy beat Gunther at WrestleMania last year. Gunther got his win back a little bit later on in the year, so they're tied up 1-1. You do Sammy Gunther 3 at SummerSlam, and right when it looks like Sammy is going to do it again, out comes Seth Rollins to cash in Money in the Bank and win the World Heavyweight Championship and steal Sami Zayn's moment. Sounds pretty good. So hopefully that's the direction they go into, and it'll be fun to see how things play out in this tournament and leading all the way up to SummerSlam. But that's my early prediction now. Sammy's going to win this tournament, and he's going to face Gunther at SummerSlam, and Seth Rollins will cash in there and steal the championship. Now, as for the women, we also had a fatal four-way with the women on this show. It involved Roxanne Perez, Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, and Kairi Sane. And another fun match here. And Rhea was screwed over by interference from Raquel Rodriguez, who pulled her out after she hit a riptide on Liv. And then back in the ring, Kairi Sane went up top, dove out on both Rhea and Raquel, and got back in the ring, went up top again, hit an insane elbow on Liv, went for the cover, but then Roxanne snuck in and rolled her over and got the pin on her, and Roxanne Perez is the one to win this match. They were teasing stuff between Roxanne and Liv throughout the match, and of course that story is ongoing. With the Judgment Day, we saw some stuff backstage later on with Finn Balor and his shit-eating grin. He's stirring stuff up, so we'll see how that plays out. But Roxanne, she is going to be advancing in this tournament as well. Good for her. And the way I see it going for the women, we have on the side of the bracket for Roxanne a match coming up with Jade Cargill, Michin, Piper Niven, and Nia Jax. And then on the other side of the bracket, we have Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, Chelsea Green, and Candice LeRae. And then Stephanie Vaquer, or Vaqua, if you're Nikki Bella in her segment on this show. So Stephanie Vaqua. We have Raquel Rodriguez, Ivy Nile, and the returning Asuka. They announced her return on the show. That match is taking place on Raw next week. So out of the women in this tournament, I can see it being Roxanne. Here's my prediction. It's going to be Roxanne taking on Jade Cargill, who's going to win her match. And then Charlotte Flair wins her match. And Asuka is going to win hers. So then in the next round, we get Jade Cargill beating Roxanne Perez. Charlotte Flair beating Asuka, which she's already used to doing a bunch anyway. And then the finals at Night of Champions will be Jade Cargill versus Charlotte Flair, with Jade Cargill getting the win. And she wins it, and she challenges for the Women's Championship on SmackDown at SummerSlam. However, it will not be Tiffany Stratton, because my prediction is that between now and SummerSlam, Naomi will cash in her Money in the Bank on Tiffany, win that championship, and the match at SummerSlam is going to be Jade Cargill challenging Naomi for the Women's Championship. So, I know it's very unlikely we'll get two babyface King of the Ring winners, but hell, last year we got two heel King of the Ring winners, and I know King of the Ring is kind of a heel gimmick, but the winners get championship matches at SummerSlam. It's fine if they want to do that and have the winners both be babyfaces challenging heel champions. I have no issues with that. So, as of this moment, on the first night of the tournament, my official predictions are Sami Zayn and Jade Cargill are winning, and they're getting championship matches at SummerSlam. Looking at it now, they're probably not winning either of those matches, but hey, call me crazy. So that does it with all the King of the Ring stuff, King and Queen of the Ring. Another big thing that took place on this show, we had John Cena appearing on the show, and he was cutting a promo, running down the crowd, talking trash about R-Truth, calling him a sideshow comedian, a clown show, and all that stuff. And he mentioned how he has very few dates left, and he has already beaten the best. And this brought out CM Punk, who confronted John Cena. He exchanged words with Cena. It was more so Punk talking at Cena more than any kind of back and forth promo here. Punk said he's not here to defend TKO. He's not here to defend the billionaires and the establishment. He's here to defend the people. He's here to be a champion for the people. He even admitted that he was afraid to go after the WWE Championship because he knows what kind of monster he became when he was the WWE Champion. But he said that in order to defeat a monster like John Cena, he's going to have to become a monster himself. And he said how at Elimination Chamber, when it came down to Cena and Punk, and Rollins stomped Punk's head in, and Cena dragged him back and locked him in the STF and beat him that way, Cena told him in his ear, "I'm sorry." So he knows deep down within John Cena, he knows what he's doing is wrong. So that was another little tease of the eventual babyface turn for John Cena. But Punk still wants to fight him and take that championship away from him anyway. And he challenged him to do it here and now. And of course, Cena teased it, but instead denied him and said that if Punk wants a shot at him and his championship, he's going to have to follow him to Saudi Arabia for Night of Champions on June 28th. And they made it official later in the night that on that show, CM Punk will face John Cena for the WWE Championship. And you already see it. Many, many, many people are quickly pointing out the hypocrisy of CM Punk going to Saudi Arabia for a Saudi payday and that sweet Saudi money. Shocker, a wrestler is a hypocrite. This is nothing new. A wrestler says one thing one time somewhere else and then immediately backtracks later on. It happens all the time. CM Punk is not immune to that. The dude signed with the company back in 2023, and this company is still in the middle of a 10-year deal with Saudi Arabia, which will see them get a Royal Rumble event next year and eventually a WrestleMania. CM Punk was going to wrestle in Saudi Arabia at some point, and people thinking that he was going to hold out because he missed one last year, they don't know what they're talking about. Now, if you want to make fun of Punk for being a hypocrite and all that kind of stuff, by all means, that's your prerogative. I don't care. All I care about is that we are getting John Cena versus CM Punk. Now, I am keeping my expectations still low because I have no high expectations for John Cena matches at this point. But if there is one guy who could possibly pull out a really good match out of John Cena at this stage of his career, at this point in time, I do think it is CM Punk. The limited interaction between the two of them in that Elimination Chamber match earlier in the year, it just felt very special. The chemistry between the two of them as they were going back and forth for a couple of minutes, it felt very much like days of old between the two of them. So I'm clinging on to that couple of minutes from that chamber match and hoping that when extended out for a 20-25 minute main event match at a PLE, it will actually be entertaining. So I'm hoping against all hope that we can get that. So there you go. And as far as Seth Rollins, because he appeared at the end of the segment, he came out on the stage, held up his briefcase. Might he cash in during that match? I don't think so. He might attempt it. He might attempt to cash in, but I don't think it's going to actually be a successful one. In fact, I could see a scenario where Rollins comes out, tries to cash in, and that's where we finally get the return of Roman Reigns, who stops him. But Rollins doesn't officially cash in, but he tries to, and Roman stops him. And then that can set up whatever next thing they're going to do with Roman and Punk and Rollins and his crew and all that kind of stuff for SummerSlam. So there's that. We had an appearance on this show by R-Truth, or should I say Ron Killings, because after the women's Queen of the Ring, actually no, I believe it was after a Becky Lynch segment. Becky, the new women's Intercontinental Champion, she appeared on this show for a segment. She called out Lyra Valkyria, but instead, Lyra did come out of the entranceway, but from behind came Bayley, who has returned to the show. She went right after Becky. Of course, Becky is the one who injured Bayley and took her out of WrestleMania earlier in the year, so it made sense We knew Bayley was coming back eventually. Made sense for it to be now. And yeah, so with Bayley back and Lyra wanting to get her belt back, I can easily see this turning into a triple threat match, probably at Night of Champions. So expect that to be a big match, or Evolution. That's possible too. I feel like we might get the triple threat at Night of Champions and then get a singles match with Becky and Bayley at Evolution. At least that's my prediction. So we'll see. But it was after this segment where they cut over to Wade Barrett and Michael Cole on commentary, where R-Truth came out from the crowd, stood on the announce table in basically the same attire he wore at Money in the Bank, and he cut a promo for the fans telling them that their voices mattered, that they were heard, they were understood, and it's because of them that he is back. And they were showering him with all kinds of love here, and Truth was very grateful to them. But he said that people love R-Truth, he loves R-Truth, but sometimes R-Truth can be a little too goofy, can be a little too soft, can be a little too nice. And he said for anyone who still thinks that he is just a goofy gimmick and a sideshow comedian and a clown, he pulled out a pair of scissors and then cut off his braids and held them up and said that the truth has set him free. He is now officially Ron Killings, and he told everyone to put some respect on his name. Nice callback to his catchphrase back in the NWA TNA days in the mid-2000s. So that was really cool. And of course, like clockwork, the TNA YouTube channel and social media, they uploaded a video highlighting a lot of career moments for Ron the Truth Killings in TNA. So, very funny there. I'm very intrigued by what this run is going to be for him. This was a great promo here. This was the most invested I have been in anything R-Truth has said or done on TV in ages. So this was great stuff here. No comedy stuff, no goofy shit. This was just straight up Ron Killings talking. And if we can get more of this energy put towards a feud, I would love to see it. I don't know what he does. I imagine him and Cena will cross paths again at some point, but till then or around then, I don't know. But I'm happy that the guy got his job back, and I'm happy to see this new version of him on TV. So that's cool. So we had a Nikki Bella appearance on this show as well. She's from Phoenix, got a big hometown welcome. She was talking to women in the back, including the Women's World Champion, who was basically fangirling over Nikki Bella, which I found a little ridiculous, but it is what it is. But Nikki was on this show talking about Evolution, which we all know is coming up in July. She didn't really have much else to say. She was talking about women of today and all that kind of stuff. She was interrupted by Liv Morgan, who came out there and was upset that Nikki didn't mention her name. When she was listing off a bunch of names of women, she didn't mention Liv's name. And Liv accused Nikki of being jealous of her because she's respected, she has a championship, and she has a man. So that got a big ovation from the crowd, who were really behind Liv Morgan when she came out. There was cheers for Nikki, and then it became a little mixed when she started talking. And then once Liv came out and was running down Nikki and talking about her accomplishments and all that kind of stuff, the crowd was really into what Liv had to say here. So that was funny. And that's what Liv said. Then Nikki responded talking about how whether Liv's man really was hers or not, whether he was hers, or if he now belonged to Roxanne Perez. And so she dropped that little dig at her, and then she went to leave, and then Liv said that all Nikki will ever be is a reality star diva, or reality show diva. And so Nikki, who left the ring, but she was still on the apron, she started to get back into the ring, and Liv immediately caught her with an oblivion and laid her out, which again got a big pop. So just based on this segment here, I imagine we will get a singles match at some point between these two. Maybe that'll be a Raw match at some point in the future. I don't think that's what's being teased for Evolution. Instead, I think this is the first setup for Liv and Raquel to defend their tag team titles against Nikki and Brie at Evolution. And so I think we're getting the Bella Twins going after the women's tag team titles at that Evolution show. And I think this is just the setup for it. I think this could set up a singles match, but if that were to happen, it would just be on Raw or something like that. But the actual big match that this is setting up is going to be a tag team title match for Evolution. So that's how I see that going. And then elsewhere on the show, to a lesser degree, we had a really fun match between AJ Styles and Chad Gable, which AJ won. And again, very fun match. Chad Gable does nothing but lose. So when they run this back again, I'm sure it'll be El Grande Americano who will beat AJ. So that's just a little side stuff for the TV show. But even with that, top to bottom, this was a pretty good show. Not the best Raw of the year. I still give those honors to the post-WrestleMania episode of Raw, but this is probably a close second behind that. A lot of stuff set in motion going forward. We have this King and Queen of the Ring tournament to follow for the next few weeks. We have Night of Champions coming up. Big main event with John Cena and CM Punk already announced. Ron Killings is running around. We'll see what he does, and we'll see who wins these tournaments. Gunther, what's he going to be doing in the meantime now that he's World Heavyweight Champion again? What's Jey Uso's role going to be? You know, I don't mean to demean Jey Uso. I've already seen people talking about how, Jey deserved better. He deserved better losing this way and only having 52 days World Champion. Jey, his run as champion was only supposed to really be the moment. I never looked at Jey Uso as being a long-term 6-month reigning world champion. I thought he might hold it maybe a little bit longer than this, but I don't have an issue with this. And Jey Uso is still widely popular and one of the top stars in the company. He'll be fine. Again, I could see him maybe winning the world championship again at some point. Maybe not now, or maybe not even this year, but at some point in the future, yeah, I think Jey could win the championship again. He's an established name now, so it could happen. But his time has come and gone, and there are other stories to tell that they feel are better told with Gunther being the one to hold the championship. And I have no issue with that. And I already laid out an idea of what to do with him and Sammy at SummerSlam. So hopefully that's the direction they go in. And if it's not, hopefully whatever direction they do go in will be fun. They played it safe with Money in the Bank and Seth winning. I really hope they don't play it safe with King of the Ring and just give it to Cody Rhodes. Again, Cody already pinned John Cena. He shouldn't even be in this tournament, quite frankly. But if you want him in there, have him go up against Sammy in the finals and give the win to Sami Zayn. I would love that. But we'll see what happens. Till next time, check you guys later. You know, all that stuff. Like, subscribe, follow on Twitter/X at DerekJ Speaks. Till next time, check you later.